China have carried out a joint military exercise in the Sea of Japan, which they say is aimed at, quote, safeguarding waterways security. More than 10 warships and over 30 warplanes from both sides took part in the 4-day exercise.
In late 2025, warships and aircraft from China and Russia appeared together near Japan's southern approaches. Joint naval maneuvers, long-range bomber patrols, carefully staged operations close to the first island chain. To the casual observer, it looked like another round of great power signaling. To planners in Tokyo and Washington, it looked like a stress test of one of the most important defense systems in the Indo-Pacific. The message was subtle but clear. Beijing and Moscow were showing they can operate together in sensitive waters, close to Allied territory, without crossing the line into open crisis. These drills weren't about winning a battle, they were about probing reactions, how fast alliances respond, how tightly they coordinate, and how much uncertainty they can tolerate. Geography made the point sharper. Near Japan, nothing is abstract. Every movement is tracked. Every flight has consequences.
And that reality exposes the core limitation China faces.
The US island chain strategy is not a single barrier that can be pushed aside. It is a layered system built on alliances, choke points, and forward-deployed forces.
Heightened tensions over the Sea of Japan, where the US and Japan carried out a powerful show of force. According to Tokyo, nuclear-capable American bombers flew with Japanese fighter jets after China and Russia conducted military exercises close to Japan and South Korea.
China cannot dismantle it alone. To seriously challenge it, Beijing would need sustained pressure from multiple directions, meaning reliable support from Russia and North Korea. Even then, both partners bring constraints: limited power projection, competing priorities, and geography that works against prolonged coordination. That's why these joint drills matter, but also why they don't change the fundamentals. They add noise, they stretch attention, they raise risk.
But they do not erase the island chain or the alliances behind it. Japan, the United States, and regional partners still sit astride the same choke points, backed by the same geography and the same mutual commitments. The bottom line is simple. China can signal pressure with Russia. It can complicate planning. It can test nerves. But without deep, sustained, and coordinated support from both Moscow and Pyongyang, it cannot undo a system designed over decades to turn distance, alliances, and geography into deterrence. At the center of Indo-Pacific geopolitics sits a system the United States has spent decades building, not overnight improvising. The first and second island chains are the backbone of this strategy. Geography turned into defense. They are designed to limit adversary expansion, protect Taiwan, and keep the region's sea lanes open. U.S. planning inside these chains focuses on forward presence, denial rather than conquest, and the ability to reinforce quickly before a crisis hardens. What gives this system strength is not just American power, but the network around it. Japan, the Philippines, Taiwan, South Korea, and Australia provide basing, intelligence reach, and operational depth that no single country could replicate alone. These ties are no longer just bilateral. Trilateral and multilateral frameworks such as US-Japan, Korea coordination, and upgraded US-Philippines defense cooperation are tightening response speed and reducing political hesitation.
Very committed to the alliance that we have, to the friendship that we have, the cooperation that we have, and he and I both want to express the ironclad commitment we have to the Mutual Defense Treaty.
Militarily, this shows up on the map. Permanent U.S. bases in Japan, South Korea, and Guam anchor the system, while rotational access in the Philippines adds flexibility close to key choke points. Investments under initiatives like the Pacific Deterrence Initiative focus on the unglamorous but decisive pieces: missile defense, logistics, stockpiles, and interoperability. This is less about dramatic power projection and more about making aggression slow, visible, and costly. Across the ledger, China is pursuing a different objective. Beijing wants to project power beyond its near seas, break through the first island chain, isolate Taiwan, and weaken the alliance responses that constrain it. Control in the South and East China Seas is not an end in itself. It is a means to reshape the regional balance and reduce U.S. freedom of action. But China does not face the island chain alone by choice. It faces it alone by necessity. Its partnerships help apply pressure, but fall short of a true counter-alliance. Russia conducts joint exercises and limited coordination with China, signaling shared opposition to U.S. dominance, yet there is no formal alliance and no guarantee of sustained support in a high-intensity regional conflict. Moscow's priorities remain divided, and its ability to project power into the Western Pacific is constrained.
Russia starts 2 months of military exercises close to disputed territory with Japan. Announced on the same day as China's largest-scale combat drills around Taiwan, are the two exercises connected?
North Korea plays a different role altogether. Pyongyang is less a partner in breaking the island chain than an asymmetric spoiler, capable of creating crises, distractions, and escalation risks that stretch Allied attention, but not of providing sustained, conventional military support across the theater. This is the core asymmetry shaping Indo-Pacific geopolitics. The United States operates through a dense, institutionalized alliance system rooted in geography and habit. China operates through pressure, proximity, and selective partnerships that complicate but do not replace that system. Beijing can probe, signal, and stress the island chains, but without a reliable, fully committed alliance of its own, it cannot easily dismantle a structure designed to turn coordination and geography into deterrence. If Beijing ever tries to crack the island chain system head-on, the assist role from Russia would look loud but limited. Periodic naval patrols, bomber flights that force Japan and the US to track and respond, and selective technology cooperation where it benefits China. The constraint is endurance. Sustained Pacific operations demand logistics, maintenance cycles, and steady tempo. Hard to generate at scale when distance is long, and Russia's priorities and resources are pulled toward other theaters. Russia is most useful as a second set of problems. It can widen the surveillance picture, stretch air defense readiness, and create timing dilemmas, forcing Allied planners to ask, are we watching the right corridor at the right moment? But Russia's Pacific footprint is not a blank check. Long lines of communication and competing commitments reduce the probability that Moscow can maintain the kind of sustained operational contribution that would actually help China undo the island chain architecture. North Korea's contribution is different. It cannot escort fleets through choke points or sustain blue water operations. What it can do is spike crisis pressure, missile tests, nuclear signaling, artillery threats, and political shocks that pull attention and assets toward the Korean peninsula. That doesn't break the island chain, but it complicates Allied planning by adding uncertainty, shortening decision time, and raising escalation risk in a way that makes coordination harder and mistakes more likely. Even if China, Russia, and North Korea are aligned in opposition to the US-led system, that is not the same thing as being integrated. Divergent strategic cultures, separate command structures, different risk tolerances, and asymmetric goals make true trilateral military integration difficult. In practice, this would look less like one coherent coalition and more like overlapping moves, useful for pressure, unreliable for synchronized execution. The island chain is designed for this moment, to convert geography and partnerships into forward resistance. Japan, Taiwan, and the Philippines sit where it matters most, not because they want a crisis, but because the map puts them there. When the first island chain is alert and coordinated, it becomes hard for China to move fast without being seen, and hard to sustain forward operations without friction. The core contest is control of access, air, sea, and information. Choke points like the Bashi Channel and the Luzon Strait matter because they compress movement into predictable corridors. Reinforced through exercises, basing access, maritime domain awareness, and denial capabilities, these spaces increase the cost of pushing through and reduce the chance of a clean, surprise outcome. The second island chain, anchored by places like Guam and supported by partners such as Australia, adds strategic depth. It gives the US and allies fallback options, reinforcement capacity, and operational endurance. This is the unsexy advantage that matters in long contests. When the first line is pressured, the second line prevents collapse and sustains the fight, making it harder for China to translate early gains into lasting control. If pressure rises, the Allied response is typically about tightening the system rather than inventing a new one. More naval presence, denser missile defense coverage, faster intelligence sharing, and higher frequency joint exercises to reduce political and operational hesitation. The objective is not escalation for its own sake. It is to make any attempt to push the island chain slow, visible, and expensive. Even with rapid modernization, Taiwan is not an easy military problem. The strait is narrow but unforgiving. The weather and seas are variable, and usable landing zones are limited. Taiwan's terrain and urban density complicate control after entry, which is where many campaigns bog down. The biggest issue for an attacker is that the clock starts immediately. The longer it takes, the more the coalition has time to mobilize. Strategic surprise is difficult in a region saturated with sensors, ISR, and constant scrutiny. Prepared defenses, dispersal, and early warning reduce the chance that China can achieve a clean opening that decisively paralyzes Taiwan's response. And without a clean opening, the operation becomes an attrition and logistics contest, precisely the kind of conflict the island chain is built to influence.
Japan and the Philippines do not have to declare participation for their geography to matter.
Forward basing, logistics, surveillance, and interdiction options can shape outcomes even short of direct combat. Operating inside the first island chain increases attrition risk for Chinese forces and complicates sustainment, especially if Beijing has to assume it is being tracked, challenged, and pressured at multiple points.
A Taiwan conflict would almost certainly trigger major coalition dynamics,
Political, economic, and military, because it strikes at sea lanes, alliance credibility, and regional order. The key point is not that responses are automatic or identical, but that the structure of alliances and geography makes isolation difficult. Once the crisis begins, it is hard to keep it bilateral, and that reality is a major reason deterrence still holds.
Along China's southern flank,
The Philippines quietly limits Beijing's freedom of action. The South China Sea is not just disputed water, it is crowded, monitored, and increasingly defended through tighter U.S.-Philippines cooperation. Enhanced access agreements, joint exercises, and growing interoperability mean Chinese movements face faster detection and political pushback. For Beijing, this turns what it once hoped would be a controllable maritime space into a contested operating environment. Every patrol risks escalation. Every maneuver draws allied attention. The Philippines doesn't need to confront China directly to matter. Its geography alone narrows China's room to maneuver.
to China's east sits its most consequential obstacle, Taiwan.
Taiwan's location blocks China's direct access to the open Pacific and anchors the first island chain. This is not symbolism, it is geometry. As long as Taiwan remains outside Beijing's control, Chinese naval and air forces must operate through predictable routes under constant surveillance. Taiwan turns distance into friction and speed into vulnerability. Strategically, it prevents China from achieving depth, surprise, and sustained power projection eastward.
To the northeast, Japan reinforces the pressure. Japan's advanced military capabilities, combined with deep integration with U.S. forces, create layered defenses along China's flank. Missile defense, maritime patrols, and air power coverage in the Southwest Islands mean China cannot move near Japan without triggering immediate Allied responses. Japan's role is less about provocation and more about denial, ensuring that any attempt to push outward becomes costly and slow. Viewed together, these constraints form a strategic vice. China can apply pressure in one direction, but projecting power simultaneously across the south, east, and northeast strains resources and coordination. Geography and alliances multiply each other's effects. The island chain system works not because of one country, but because multiple states occupy the right places on the map. Russia plays a visible but constrained role in China's challenge to the island chain. Joint naval drills, bomber patrols, and symbolic coordination signal shared opposition to U.S. dominance and forced Allied planners to track multiple actors at once. This creates noise and complexity, never irrelevant in military planning. But Russia's limitations are decisive. Without forward basing in East Asia, sustained Pacific operations are hard to maintain. Distance stretches logistics, while competing priorities elsewhere absorb attention and resources. Russia can complicate planning and raise alert levels, but it cannot provide the continuous, high-tempo presence needed to fundamentally alter the island chain balance. Its value lies in distraction, not decisive leverage. North Korea influences the region in a very different way.
Pyongyang cannot escort fleets or project maritime power across choke points. What it can do is inject volatility. Missile tests, nuclear signaling, and sudden provocations force Allied readiness shifts and shorten decision timelines. This creates stress and uncertainty, especially for South Korea, Japan, and US forces. Yet this unpredictability cuts both ways. Rather than weakening alliances, repeated crises often reinforce coordination and cohesion. North Korea shapes the strategic environment indirectly, but it cannot provide China with sustained military support. It is a spoiler, not a pillar.
Holding the system together.
At the center of this balance sits the United States. Washington's objective is not conquest, but denial, preventing any actor from gaining uncontested access beyond the first and second island chains. This is achieved through forward basing, alliance integration, and investments in deterrence capabilities rather than dramatic escalation. Diplomatically, the US sustains the system through security pacts and multilateral frameworks that turn individual national interests into collective credibility. Militarily, it focuses on presence, sensing, logistics, and reinforcement speed, the quiet enablers that make deterrence believable.
China's ambitions are real,
But so are its constraints. Geography channels movement. Alliances multiply resistance. Operational realities slow momentum. Russia and North Korea can complicate the picture, raise risks, and add uncertainty, but neither can deliver a decisive breakthrough against the island chain system. The rational judgment is clear. The US island chain strategy remains a durable barrier to unchecked Chinese expansion. Overcoming it would require prolonged coordination, sustained commitment from partners with limited capacity, and acceptance of enormous strategic risk. Those conditions are difficult to assemble and unlikely to fully align by 2027 or shortly thereafter.
If you liked the video, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe our channel for deep analysis of contemporary issues.